friends! Today we are going to take another look at our alphabet book. This is the front cover, back cover, and the title. The title of this book is Alphabet Book, and this is the spine. Now, just like our big book of poems, this book also has a whole bunch of poems, but these poems are all alphabet poems. And when I open it up, I see the title page. That's just to remind you of the title, in case you forgot. And when I turn the page again, I see a special place called the Table of Contents. The Table of Contents tells you where to find things. Today, we will be looking at 2-letter poems for the letters Q and R. Before we look at them, let's talk a little bit more about those letters. Just like you and I have names, letters have names too. And when we write our names, we use an uppercase letter. Each letter has both an uppercase and a lowercase. Before I write these letters down, I have something important to remind you of. This is the sky, the grass, and the ground. Some letters start in the sky and some letters start in the grass. Let's start with the letter Q. For the letter Q, I start in the sky, curve around, back to the sky, and a small diagonal line on the ground. For lowercase q, I start in the grass, curve around, touch the grass, dig underground. That is the letter Q. What do you notice about the letter Q? You're right, uppercase Q is much bigger. Oh, and they both have some curved around parts, but lowercase q is doing something different. What is it? That's right, just like some of our other letters, G, J, and P, it goes underground. Now, the hook for the lowercase q is a little bit different though, because it hooks the other way. All right, friends, let's look at our next letter. For the letter R, I start in the sky, touch the ground, back to the sky, bubble around, diagonal down. For lowercase r, I start in the grass, slide down, slide up, and a small hook. That is the letter R. What do you notice about the letter R? Well, they both have curved parts, but uppercase R has a bubble and a diagonal line, and lowercase r just has a little hook. What about when we look at both letters? What do you notice? Well, all the letters have some type of curve, but they don't really look alike. And uppercase Q and uppercase R both have a diagonal line, but Q's diagonal line is a lot smaller. Now that we know a little bit more about the letters Q and R, let's read some poems about them. Remember, we can check the table of contents to see where we can find them. Now, I see the letter Q is going to be on page 36, and the letter R is going to be on page 38. So I'm going to go ahead and turn to the poem for the letter Q. And before we start, just like always, we're going to make some observations. What do you notice about the illustrations on this page? What kind of animals do you see? You might say, I see a frog and a fish, a swan and a duck, and it looks like they're in a pond with water lilies, cattails, tall grass, and some flowers. Well, I think those are some pretty good observations. So let's read our poem about the letter Q. That's quite a quack, said the swan to the duck. I'll give you a quarter if you can also cluck. The duck got quiet. He thought for quite a bit. Then the quacker started clucking, and now he cannot quit. Oh man, that sure was a silly poem with things starting with the letter Q. Let's look at our poem for the letter R. And before we read, let's make some observations. What do you notice? You might say, I see a reindeer and a raccoon, and it looks like they're on a raft in a river, and there's, let's see, what kind of animals? Oh, a rabbit in the forest, and some fish, and a bird. And it looks like the weather is rainy over here, but it looks like it's okay over here. Oh, and I see some lunch boxes in the river. All right, friends, let's read our poem. A raccoon and a reindeer were floating on a raft. Their lunch fell in the river, but they only laughed and laughed until it started raining, and then they cried and paddled for the riverbank. What a crazy ride! That was such a fun poem. I'm glad they had a good attitude about losing their lunch in the river, but that must have been hard trying to find a paddle in the rain. All right, friends, we're going to play a game. Every time you hear a word with a R, I want you to pretend you're on a raft with the reindeer and raccoon and that you're helping them paddle their raft to the riverbank. All right, friends, ready? A raccoon and a reindeer were floating on a raft. Their lunch fell in the river, but they only laughed and laughed until it started raining, and then they cried and paddled for the riverbank. What a crazy ride. I am so glad that we got to read those alphabet poems together and talk about letters. I love reading poems with you. You're amazing. I'll see you again later.